check on sound. How's sound, Shiva? Shiva sounds good? Cool. How's my media folks doing? Good. All right, how y'all doing? All right. Yo, can you believe this is the last event of 2025? Last event from Brooklyn Baithak for 2025. So I'd say, get to know somebody new here. What's that? No December. We're taking a break. We're real tired. It's been a long ride here. But I'd say because it's our last event here, got the holidays coming up, people traveling to go home. Make the most of it here. Y'all together. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I see a lot of people that are new. So get to know somebody new here. We're in a photo studio. How cool is this space? Shout out to Happy Monday, everybody. Everyone's all looking all dressed up. I like that. Okay, cool. Take some pictures. Update your Hinge profiles. Okay. My name is Sapan. I'm going to be your MC. I am the founder and the organizer of Brooklyn Baithak. Okay. We have an incredible team behind the scenes. It's not just me. We have people doing media and logistics, and so much work has been put together. We all work full-time jobs, and this is our passion project. So if you're on the team, raise your hand and give a round of applause for these people. Thank you so much. All right, so question for y'all. Whose first time is it at a Brooklyn Baithak event? Wow, look at that, almost half of your top people here. It's amazing. Thank you all for coming out. Who's come from furthest away? All right, where are you from? Jersey City. Where? Yeah, Jersey City. Who can beat Jersey City?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico! I know Boston is in the house. Who's from Boston? All right, we got Boston folks. My second home. All right. So for all the new folks that are here, this is a little bit of a different event. What we normally do is we're a space for emerging artists. We're a space for raga-based music. Raga-based music originates from South Asia. Classical music from North India, Carnatic music from South India, Qawwali, Rajasthani folk, things like that. So, we're a space for that, and we're a space for emerging artists. And what we normally do is we have 8 people come up, typically. Each person gets 10 minutes, and then we do an open jam. But tonight's a little different. Tonight's our 2-year celebration, right? So we're gonna do things a little bit different tonight. The way we're gonna do tonight is typically a raga composition has many parts to it. But tonight we have 3 parts. We have the alap, the bandish, and the jala. All right, so the alap in a rag is when the notes are emerging. You're getting to hear the notes for the first time. They're being unveiled. And so for us, the alap was the mixer. People get to meet new people at the same time. You get to hear a little bit about the story. Say alap with me. Alap. Bandish. The bandish is the part where you get to hear the gut, the main melody. And then you get to hear improvisations that are happening, which are known as dans. And between that and the percussion, it makes the bandish. Say bandish. All right, so we're gonna have an amazing performance coming up in a little bit. That's gonna be our bandish section. And the last is the jala. Say jala? Jala. Jala is when everything comes together, the crescendo of the piece, and then it typically ends around that. You all are gonna be the jala tonight. Y'all are gonna be doing an open jam at the end. We've had some epic open jams before in the past. So that's the way tonight's gonna work. Now, I had a question for y'all. I was gonna ask you, can I share my story real quick? Yes. All right, cool, because I come up here sometimes and I talk about Brooklyn Baithak and it started in my living room. But when I was thinking about this, Brooklyn Baithak actually started almost a decade ago, subconsciously. So I figured, let me do a little bit of a TED Talk, if I can get like 10, 15 minutes, and share my story. So I hope by sharing this story, y'all feel inspired from kind of what I went through as well. You might connect with it. There's 3 parts to this story. The first part is about pursuing a passion. The second part is about being connected to a community. And the third part is about enjoying the rock star moment. These 3 are the formulas that I use to create this space. And without these 3, Brooklyn Baithak wouldn't be here. So, I hope this works. All right. So, first one, pursuing a passion, trusting the journey, and keeping the culture alive. When I was a senior in Rutgers University, I was doing biomedical engineering and I was really stressed out. I was taking way too many credits. I was doing the whole doctor engineer thing, and I was like, let me just be a doctor. Let me not be a doctor. I'm not an MD. Let me be an engineer and do business. But at that time, the anxiety for me, the way that I solved it was listening to classical music. Hindustani classical music, for some reason, gave me that sense of security and calmness. And I particularly, it was sitar for me. And so I started listening to a lot of sitar music, and I ended up listening to Anoushka Shankar. Who's heard her before? All right, Anoushka Shankar, so Ravi Shankar's daughter. And she was coming out with this album called Rise. And I was just listening to it for hours, studying. And she was going on tour. And one of her first tour stops was at Princeton University. So I asked my parents at 17, 18, I was like, Mom and Dad, can we go to a sitar concert? And they were like, Beta, how do you know what a sitar is? I was like, I looked it up on Wikipedia. So we go to the sitar concert. And that was the first time I saw what a sitar was. I heard it for the first time. And it was beautiful. And after the concert, I had a CD, and I wanted to get a picture with Anoushka. So I go backstage, and I come across these two doors, and I knock on the door. And the tabla player opens the door. And he looks at me and he says, can I help you? And I say, yeah, I want to meet Anoushka. I want to get my CD signed. And he says, she's busy. And he closed the door in my face. So I stood there for a second. I said, okay, well, I could walk away or I could try again. Persistence. So I knocked on the door again. And he opened the door and I see Anoushka in the distance. And I said, Anoushka with waving my CD. And the door closed in my face again. And this time I was about to walk away when I heard the door open. And it was her. And she said, hey, how's it going? She was so nice. I don't remember what I said that day, but it probably sounded something like this. I was like, Anoushka, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been listening to you all the time. I go to Rutgers University and I started a dole team there. I also learned how to play guitar on ultimateguitar.com. Can you sign my CD? She was like, yeah, sure. And it wasn't that moment. It was the decision that she made that changed my life. She basically could have walked away, but she stopped and she asked me a question. And she said, you seem pretty musical. Have you ever considered playing the sitar before? And I said, no one's ever asked me that before. And then she said, well, maybe you should. And then she walked away. That's me at 17, 18. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. Maybe I should. So when I talk about pursuing a passion, the universe has signs for you. All your artist folks out there, it gives you signs to move you in the right direction. I was so lucky, I ended up going to India later that year, and I took a crash course in sitar, and I learned for 2 weeks, and I brought it back with me, and I couldn't find a teacher until I moved to Boston. And over here on the right side here, this is LearnQuest Academy of Music in Boston, where I met one of the most amazing instructors who's been a mentor of mine, and I met an amazing community. And not only that, I was so blessed that this community and this instructor, my guru, was also connected to Ustad Shahid Pervez Khan. And I got a chance to meet him and learn from him as well. So for y'all, if you're doing music and you're doing anything even outside of music, keep at it. Keep that persistence, because you never know what the universe is going to share. All right. My second story is about community. So when I lived in Boston, there was an organization there, and it's still going on today, called Subdrift Boston. Y'all heard of it? Yeah. So Subdrift Boston is an organization where they meet once a month. They give a space for South Asians to share art, so people do poetry and spoken word and things like that. So when I first went there, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. It had been a couple years out of college, and I wanted to reconnect with my roots and be around like-minded people. So I ended up going to this organization, and I was like, hey, you guys are really cool. I ended up joining the board for 7 years, and I got a chance to learn how to organize. So event planning and doing all the work that I do around here, I learned all at this organization. But the thing is, when I really appreciated it was afterwards, a couple years later, when I realized when you're putting yourself out there together with like-minded people, it's all about the human connection, right? Community gives rise to meaningful human connections. And the world we live in today with AI and living in New York, it's a lonely place. So we really need that. And so what I realized was, these are some of my closest friends that I made. Who's been to Subdrift before? Who's been to Boston? I know Maddie's in the house. I got a lot of people here. Hi there. A lot of people. So they're like my closest friends, and I'm so happy about that. So what I say for you all, when you come to Baithak and you go up to somebody and say hello, you never know where that relationship's going to take you. So keep that in mind. All right, my last one. Enjoy the rock star moments, the magic of performing and taking a risk and feeling seen. So what this means is whether you're a rock star or whether you're a rock star, how we are in Brooklyn Baithak, it's all about you are the star. When you come up to the stage, I want you to feel real good about yourself because everyone's going to cheer for you. And we need that as emerging artists, especially. So about 7 years ago, I was in a band. That band was called Awazdo. We were putting together a new sound. It was like rock music with Bollywood and punk rock and alternative and country. It was a brand new sound. And I was on this band for a while, and we released 2 albums. We went on tour, and we played all kinds of shows from bars to gala events to big festivals to weddings. And it was one of the most fun times in my life. But particularly, there was this moment right here. This was at Baby's All Right in Brooklyn. Yeah. And when we were first starting out as emerging artists, this was our biggest show because it was outside of the city and we were just kind of getting together and figuring out a sound. And I remember getting on that stage and I had the guitar in my hand. It was a little out of tune. I think my contacts were switched. It was kind of blurry. I couldn't find the set list. I was nervous. My palms are sweaty. My knees weak. Arms are heavy. That's what I felt like. Who's felt like that before? Yeah? So I got through that in about 30 minutes. We did the set. And then afterwards, I went to the green room. And the green room where all the artists are. And I saw a guy in the distance. He had a black hat on, and he had a jersey, and it was cut down the middle, and it said English Stan on it in green letters. And I was like, this guy's cool. I wonder who he is. He turned around, and I recognized him. I saw him on TV. He was on that show, The Night Of, on HBO. He also was casted in Star Wars that was coming out later that year. It was Riz MC, the rapper from UK, also known as Riz Ahmed. So, remember, I had negative energy in my mind, right? I went up to Riz and I was like, hey Riz, I'm a big fan of yours. And he said to me, he's like, hey man, how you doing? In my bad British accent. And he said, you guys got a real good sound up there. And I was like, jaw dropped. I just said, somebody that I look up to said something so nice to me. Why was I so negative? Why was I not living in the moment? Why was I not having fun? Right? I was looking for perfection. And so I asked Riz for a picture, and as usual, I didn't get the picture correctly. Basically, somebody tapped him on the shoulder, and I got the back of Riz's head. And I was holding my CD to give it to him, and this random crocodile was in the way. I don't know what that is. But this was the moment. When I talk about empowering emerging artists, it comes from moments like this. It's real important. And so it's real important about you all feeling like empowered emerging artists, right? We're a space for emerging artists. And when I had that moment as someone that was new, that was going onto the stage, when I got that compliment, it changed everything. Because the next 7 years in that band, I had fun. I felt like a rock star, right? So, those are my 3 stories. It's about pursuing a passion, joining a community, and feeling like a rock star. So what happened after that? COVID. COVID happened for 2.5 years. The things that brought me joy, I didn't feel like a rock star. I wasn't connected to community. And I wasn't pursuing a passion. I gave up playing sitar. It was a really tough time because I was really isolated. How many of you feel isolated during COVID? It was hard, right? Being creative and stuff like that. So what happened was after 2.5 years of living at home in Jersey, I was like, let me move to New York. Let me try it out. It's a new chapter. It's a new city. Maybe I'll go on a date or 2, but that was a disaster. And so I was like, let me try this out. And what I realized was even though New York is so busy and so big, it's lonely. It's lonely depending on where you are in your life, because if you're in the late 30s, your friends are getting married, things like that, it's hard to connect with people here. And I was like, if I feel lonely and I'm looking for a human connection, other people are too. So I was like, let me try something. What makes me happy? Community and music, that makes me happy. So I was like, let me try something. So I ended up having an event in my living room, that middle picture right there. Who's from, actually Maddie, I think you were part of that picture. Yeah, we had some OGs from back in the day when we had that picture. So I basically had a Friendsgiving in my living room, and I brought my New York friends and my Boston friends together, and they were all jamming. And I took a step back, and I was like, this is Brooklyn Baithak. There's something here. So I ended up opening my living room. People came, and it just spread like wildfire. So give it up for y'all, because you made it happen. You're making a scene in New York City to make raga-based music cool. So, I do work in tech during the day. I work in AI. And kid pays the bill. So I was like, this next slide, my buddy Shashank and I, we had to put this together. There's a little dashboard called the Raga report. And so I didn't realize what we achieved for 2 years until I got this on paper.
Let's go, dude.
You know, we've had 18 shows. We had 4 shows in my living room, 10 shows in cafes, 2 theater shows, all sold out. We had 95 artists come through. That's crazy. We had 1,000 unique attendees. 50% are new every single time, and 4,000 Instagram followers with no bots or no paid ads. We might break 4,000 tonight. The next slide. We sent out a survey. We sent out a survey to our artists. We asked them a couple questions. This is actually fascinating. 51% of our artists said that they performed at Brooklyn Baithak more than once. 82% of the artists say after performing at Brooklyn Baithak once, they feel like they want to practice more again. They're like, getting introduced. They want to practice their instrument and play more again. And 73% of people say that they found gigs, collaborations, made new friends. It's working. That's what's up. That's what's what. It's working. I'm so happy about that. So thank you so much. So I just want to end by saying thank you so much for being part of this community, for being part of this journey. Organizing like this is a roller coaster ride. There's many ups and downs, and my team knows what I've been through. But you all have been there for me. The community has been there for me. So thank you so much. Make some noise.